everyone, and welcome to Staff Picks, a WPL program where library staff from across the system get together to share their love of reading with the community. We want to start today by acknowledging that Winnipeg is located on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. Thank you for being with us. Each episode of Staff Picks has a theme, and the staff pick a selection of books that they have read and enjoyed to share with you. And today's theme is mysteries and thrillers, which is a bit of a stretch for me, so this was good. I broadened my horizons. Every book featured is available in the library collection, sometimes in multiple formats and languages. And the books in every episode will be listed in an info guide that you can refer back to. And we'll share the link to that in the description. It should be below, but I don't know where I am on the screen. So, you know the internet, you can make it work. I believe in you all. So how does this whole process work? In a round robin style, each staff member will take a turn talking about a book. That's better. And at the end, there will be a lightning round of book presentations. We'll go really fast. It's a challenge. We like to talk about books at length. So let's do a round of introductions for our lovely staff here so that you know what order we're presenting in and like something about us. So we're going to say our name, and then we're going to say what we would be doing if we had a snow day. But the blizzard didn't come, so that's what we're pretending. So I'm Courtney, and if I were at home, I would be building my Wednesday Addams Lego. Karli, you're next.
I'm Karli. I was at home. I would be asleep.
Nice.
I'm Lori. If I were at home, I would be knitting.
I love knitting. I have to learn how to do it so many times, though. I've had to teach myself like 3 times. I can't keep it going. Same with crochet. Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Let's do this. I'm up first. Funny how that goes. Well, when you start mysteries and thrillers, you start at the beginning with a classic, Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. It's originally written in 1905, and this is not one book, this is all of the books. But this version is from 2009, and I picked it because they're all here. So you can like choose your own adventure with Sherlock. I'm not gonna lie to you though, that's some small type. So obviously it's an adult fiction book, and it's mystery, and it's over 1,000 pages, but you don't have to read them in order, and you can pick and choose whatever you'd like. It's just the complete adventures of the best and original detective. You know, sometimes the classics are the best. So there are 60 adventures in this book that pit his extraordinary wits and courage against foreign spies, blackmailers, cultists, petty thieves, murderers, swindlers, policemen, both stupid and clever. That's their words, not mine, just to be clear. And his arch nemesis, Moriarty. Sherlock Holmes, together with his faithful sidekick, Dr. John Watson, proves himself not only to be the quintessential detective, but also the most engaging and entertaining company any reader could ask for. So if someone's going to write something that nice about the book, it's got to be great, right? So there's 4 novels, 56 short stories, the entire case history. But if you're not into 1,100 pages of really heavy reading, I got started with Sherlock Holmes listening to audiobooks, which is really great because you can pause and move on and kind of just think about it while you're driving. But we also have graphic novels, individual stories based on Sherlock Holmes written by other authors, movies, video games. Like there's so many things that if you're intrigued in mysteries and you've heard some of the stories, maybe you've seen the movie, you know, or the TV show, and you want to learn a little bit more, there's a lot of ways to get into it. So don't get hung up on 1,100 pages. I chose this book because it stood the test of time for a reason. There's some of the best head-scratching, edge-of-your-seat reads that I found. And the complete set is nice. Like I said, you can dip in and out and pick what you like to go, or choose your own adventure and start at the back and read to the front. Maybe you're that kind of reader. If I was trying to pick another book to read after these ones, there's the Enola Holmes series, who is the sister of Sherlock Holmes, and they are awesome. Sally Lockhart series by Philip Pullman, and of course, the Flavia de Luce series by Alan Bradley. You will note these are all slightly feminist takes on mysteries, thrillers, and crime. And if you've been around and seen my recommendations, all right. So that was Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Find it some way. You'll like it. That's all on that one. It's your turn, Karli.
I think I have engaged in Sherlock Holmes in every way except through the books. So maybe I should try that. But I quite enjoyed them. So the book I'm choosing is The 7.5 Depths of Evelyn Hardcastle, or The 7 Depths of Evelyn Hardcastle, because we have both, but they're the exact same book. It was published in the States, and at the time, there was another book called The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and the States was like, that's going to confuse people. We need to differentiate. So they added a half a death to the title, and even the author was like, I don't know why they did that, but okay. But like I said, exact same book. No, they didn't actually add a half a death. They just changed the title a little bit. But this is the one I'm talking about. And it is a murder mystery set during a party at a manor. It's attended by a bunch of people, and you start out reading about one person who wakes up. They don't remember anything. They are in the woods. They think they're being chased. They remember calling out to Anna. They don't know who Anna is, but they try calling out to her again. They hear a scream. They think someone's been attacked. They run through the woods, get to the manor, enter the manor, meet some people there who tell them, oh, you're Dr. Sebastian Bell, and like he's a guest at the party, and he's completely confused what's going on, goes to sleep, wakes up. He's not Sebastian Bell anymore. He's the butler now. And obviously still very confused, still doesn't remember who his real identity is, if he even has a real identity. And he has gone back to previously in the morning. So he went to the manor, he's at the manor, and now he's at the manor, but earlier. And if you think that sounds a little confusing, yeah, it's a little confusing. The story is you find out what's going on through running into this person in a plague doctor mask. And you don't know who they are, but they tell you you're kind of, for lack of a better word, you're kind of cursed, you're kind of stuck in this manor. And you're going to be inhabiting 8 bodies over 8 days. Every time you go to sleep, you're going to wake up in a new body or in a previous body that you've inhabited. And you have until the end of the 8 days to figure out who killed the titular Evelyn Hardcastle, who is going to die at 11 p.m. at the party. And so every time he falls asleep, this guy is switching between bodies, switching between times during the day, sometimes running into himself from the future in another body and kind of sharing information with himself. It's not the kind of book you read at like kind of not paying that much attention, because it can get very like timey-wimey with the time shifting and the characters, but it's also really good. It's set in like I'd say like the 1920s, and you're learning as he learns. Like he doesn't know anything, you don't know anything. And as he learns more through other bodies, he can then bring that to whatever body he's inhabiting to learn more about who's going to die. And he's told, or who's going to kill her. And he's told that he can't save her. So don't even try, even though he thinks she's a very nice person. That's not the option. That's not the point of the game, I guess. The point is to find out who killed her. And it's not that simple though, because there's also 2 other people competing. And if they get the answer before you, well then sad day. But you don't win. And one of the ways they try and stop you from winning is by killing you. It's a really good read, but like I said, really like twisty and oh my, there's so many things that happen that you don't see coming that just kind of blow your mind. And it really kind of warrants a second read once you know what's going on, which I do enjoy in a book. I think that if you like time travel, it's good. But even if you've like never read a time travel book, but you like mysteries, this is like a good way to get into it. It doesn't kind of throw you in the midst of like sci-fi. It's very mystery based, but oh, there's also some time travel and body swapping. So yeah, I would highly recommend this book. I actually have been waiting for years to read it, and I'm really glad I finally got around to it. So that is all for me. Up to you now, Lori.
Thanks so much, Karli. I second everything that you said about the book. It is amazing. And thank you for clearing up the mystery about the 7 deaths versus the 7.5. I did not know that was the reason behind it, and it's been bugging me for years. So thank you for that. So, in complete contrast to a twisty-turny one, the book that I have is actually a part of a series. A is for Alibi by Sue Grafton. And this is a book that it's a beachy read. It's a fun book. Kinsey Milhone is the main character. She was based kind of on the stereotypical hard-boiled independent detective, the loner type. And over time, over the series of books, because they are written as an alphabetical series, there's 25 books in the series, she becomes more humanized. She becomes more, you get more information about her and her background and about her family. I love books that are written in a series, and I'm one of those people that has to read them in order. And Sue does a great job in letting us know that you start with A, you go to B, and then so on from there. You can read them out of order. They do stand alone, but I do recommend, as I say, reading them over time, just because you get to know the characters and their quirks, things like that. The other thing I really like about this series is that it started in the 1980s. The first book was published in 1982, and the author very deliberately never left the 80s. So in Kinsey's life, it goes through about 3 to 5 years or so, but towards the end of the series is when you start seeing things like cell phones and fax machines. So in the beginnings, Kinsey is forever trying to find a payphone and to make sure she's got change to be able to make calls. She uses the directories at the local library to look things up and to try and find people. And I like that part of it. To me, it's a version of time travel. I vividly remember the 80s, so it's nice to kind of have some time back in that time space. If you enjoy books by J.D. Robb, the In Death series, the character is something like that. Of course, In Death is set in the future, and this one is set very strongly in the past. But it's still a similar kind of an idea. Strong female lead. It reminds me in spots of a Janet Ivanovich, like One for the Money, that kind of a character going on. One of the things that I also really appreciated about this series is that, as I said, like Sue Grafton wrote them starting in the 80s. Her author photo ages, but her character does not. And sadly, she passed away before she could write the Z book or the Z book in the series. And her family and estate has released a notice saying that as far as they're concerned, that the alphabet ends with Y. They, according to her wishes, that there's not going to be a Z book written by a ghostwriter. So if you like something light and beachy, even in the middle of winter, I would say pick this one up. It's fun. It's going to keep you interested in reading. It'll give you a chuckle. And it is one that you can pick up, put down. You can kind of drift in and out. It's a great one, too, as an audiobook. I use this series quite often if we're going on a long car trip, because there's points where you can kind of tune in. And if you happen to chat throughout, then you're not going to miss too much. But you're going to love Kinsey, or I hope you do, as much as I love her.
That's a good one. My partner read all of those when he was truck driving, and he said the same things. So solid things. Okay, I went from a really big book to a novella, a very little book. It's called Comfort Me with Apples by Catherine M. Valente. I've said this name a few times on here before, and I'm not going to stop saying it. This is my favorite author, one of them. This is actually a thriller, which is quite the departure for me because I don't like scary things, some scary things. So we have it in print and ebook, and it's only 100 pages. And the tagline with this one is kind of like, is utopia too good to be true? So this is kind of a take on Adam and Eve / Bluebeard, just to give you a direction on where we're going here. It's a book about a character named Sophia. Sophia was made for him, is the first line in the description of this book. Her perfect husband. He can feel it in her bones. He is perfect, Their home together in Arcadia Gardens is perfect. Everything is perfect. What could go wrong? It's just that he's away so much, so often. He works so hard. She misses him, and he misses her. And he says he does, so it must be true. He is the perfect husband, and everything is perfect. Right? Like you start reading and you're like, uh-huh. And, but sometimes Sophia wonders about things, strange things, dark things, and the look on her husband's face when he comes back from a long business trip. Questions he won't answer. The locked basement she's not allowed to enter. And whenever she asks the neighbors, they quite don't make eye contact with her. But everything's perfect, isn't it? So it pretty much says Adam and Eve and Bluebeard, kind of like in that description. Locked basement, can't go in basement. Um, and that's not really surprising me because Valente's stuff, many degrees and lots in classic mythology and history and those languages and those kind of stories. And so she is known for infusing traditional folk into her work. And both of those tales are about knowledge, control, and the consequences of being on the wrong sides of both. So it's really interesting. The title is actually taken from the Song of Solomon from the Bible. And it says, "Stay with me, flagons, comfort me with apples, for I am sick of love," which in modern translation could also mean, I am sick from love, both of which suit the story, but they mean very different things. I think this is because it's short. It's different from her other work, but it's a good introduction to her style. And I picked it because I started reading it, and at the end, it was totally different from what I thought. So you'll either love it or hate it. But, you know, what's better than not knowing what you're getting into for a mystery thriller? So there you go. Comfort me with apples. It won't take you long, but you'll like it.
I don't think I've ever heard of a utopia story where the utopia was as good as it seemed. It's like utopia
right? Like,
is
it's not
code.
a thing.
Yeah. If it says utopia, it's like that means something shady's going on. Yes.
Deeply shady. Go the other direction.
Right. My next book is The Favorite Daughter by Kara Rounda, and she is one of my favorite authors. So this book is kind of a mix of thriller and mystery. It's about this woman, Jane Harris. She lives in a wonderful gated community with her husband and her two daughters. But 1 year ago, her daughter Mary died in a tragic accident. And Jane has spent the last year in grief, on antidepressants, kind of lost in the haze, doesn't even leave the house. But she has decided on page one, she's decided, enough of this, I'm going to reclaim my life. And she kind of just jumps right back into being like this kind of, I think she describes it like a queen reclaiming her throne. She's just putting on like dinner parties and trying to get back into the swing of things. But her husband and daughter, they're still in mourning. Her husband's planning a 1 year memorial service. Both of them have secrets. They have things going on that they're not talking about. Her husband has bought a house for some reason, and she assumes it's for both of them to move on after their daughter graduates university, or after her daughter graduates high school and goes to university. And she's just ready to just pick up life again. And she's kind of frustrated that her daughter and her husband are still grieving. And her daughter is also keeping secrets from her, staying out late. Her husband's not telling her things. And as you go on, not only do you find out more about what's going on with her husband and her still alive daughter, you find out things that had been happening with her now deceased daughter. And you start to wonder how much you know about the daughter and how much she knew about her daughter and how much she had to play a part in what happened that day. The thing I love about Kara Rounda's books is that the lead characters are awful people. That might turn you away instantly, and heads up, that's what's going on here. It's very clear, like pretty much like page 2 or 3, that she is not your grieving, but like moving on. This isn't like a powerful story about a woman who's pressing forward through grief. She like does not care. Like she's just like, oh, okay, my daughter's dead. Anyway, back to my life. And it's all like her internal monologue going on. So you know what she's thinking. And it's very clear that she lacks empathy, and she's kind of frustrated that people are so focused on like her dead daughter when like she is right here. Um, and that's kind of like a lot of the books that I've read by Kara Rauda have at least one character who's a lead character who you're like, oh, I hate you, but I want to keep reading about you. You know, I don't often read stories where I'm like, I want the lead character to be punished. I want them to get justice. So if you don't like reading books like that, don't read The Favorite Daughter. But if you kind of like enjoy that kind of stuff, where you just see someone being horrible and you're like, oh, I'm gonna keep reading and find out if they like get caught, or if they get, I don't know, arrested, or someone finds out what they've done, or someone knows how horrible they are. The Favorite Daughter, and then like any book by Kara Rauda. She's awesome. And these are also kind of darkly humorous in a way. So that's my second choice. And I will move on to Lori now.
Thank you. Again, if I'm going to change my answer from before now, if I were at home right now, I would be reading one of the books that you folks have recommended. Never mind the knitting. I'm just going to start reading books, and yeah, that'll be that. So my second choice is by Louise Penny. It's called A Rule Against Murder. It also has been published as The Murder Stone. And Louise Penny is a hugely popular author. I'm sure that a lot of you may have heard of her. She is a Canadian. She used to be a host and journalist on CBC and came to writing relatively late in her life. She has written books. Actually, she wrote one book with Hillary Clinton, but she's best known for the series featuring Inspector Gamache, who is part of the Quebec Sûreté. He is a French police inspector. And I like her writing for several reasons, actually. I like British authors. I grew up on Enid Blyton and all those good old-fashioned folks, and I like the use of that language. And she reminds me of it in a more Canadian setting. She uses settings are very much part of her books, and they feature as a character almost in her books. This particular one is not set in her usual location of Three Pines, the village where a lot of her characters live. This is actually set on a resort in the Quebec, deep in the Quebec woods. Inspector Gamache and his wife have gone there to celebrate their wedding anniversary. And as it turns out, another party has booked up most of the rooms in the resort because they're having a family reunion. And as generally happens with families, they do not get along. It reminds me somewhat of the characters that Karli was talking about. They're not nice people. You really aren't rooting for any of them. They're all each mired in their own deceptions and their own appearances, and making sure that others don't find out what's really going on with them. So there's a lot of intrigue, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of, and of course, inevitably, there is a murder. So that Inspector Gamache, even though he's on vacation, gets called in to try and solve the mystery here. But I like her writing, again, because the characters are flawed. And the themes that run through this book, especially, it's family, it's secrets, and it's what that can do to a family and to a person over time, and how that will change them and change their relationships with the world around them. Everybody in this story has a secret. So most of them are revealed as the story goes on. Some of them are not, which I quite liked as well. It's also one of the things I really enjoy about Louise Penny's books is that, or any book that I'm reading, is food descriptions. And these folks are always eating something really, really delicious. She also uses a lot of classical language and quotations and things, which again really appeal to me. This one is also like, there's no, generally speaking, there's not a lot of graphic violence. There's not a lot of descriptions of things, which depending on your taste is something that you might be looking for in a book. These are written in a series, but they can be read out of order if you're not me. I do read them in order. And there's all of these books are available. An audio version, they're available in print. You will have to probably put your name on a bit of a wait list for them, perhaps, but they are most definitely worth the wait. And an intriguing depth of character, depth of wisdom. I learn something from Gamache every time I read one of these books. So please do pick up Louise Penny and check her out.
I keep meaning to and I haven't, but now you're selling me.
No.
Sounds good. For something totally different, how about a graphic novel? I know, murder mystery graphic novel. I first heard about this one as an e-galley, and it's called Black Water Lilies by Fred Duvall. It's actually kind of based around Monet. So murder in Monet, like what's not to love, right? It's pretty. It is murdery. So it's a print book. It is a mystery and a thriller. It's about 139 pages. And you can, where's a good picture to show you? The cover is honestly some of the best ones because there's the body and there's the water lilies, but you don't need to focus on that. So the story kind of is based around the Giverny, the town where Monet ended up spending most of his time in painting the water lilies. 3 women live there. It's a village in Normandy where, as I said, Monet painted water lilies. The first woman was wicked, the second was a liar, and the third was selfish. And all 3 thought the village was a prison, a grand and beautiful garden, like a painting that could never escape its frame. But for 13 days, the gates to the cage opened for them, and days flew by, beginning with a murder and ending with another on the last. Who do you think managed to escape? Which is a really interesting way. And the ages of the women are very different. One's a teenager, one is in her late 20s, early 30s, and one is older. So all 3 are kind of like you're following the path of each of them to see which one of them murdered this person and who's going to get murdered in the end, because you know this is kind of where it's going. But how do we get there and what's going on and who killed the philandering ophthalmologist? The burning question of this graphic novel. So it's adapted from a different story called, it's French, I'm going to butcher it, Nymphias Noir by Michael Bussy. And I just find that the beautiful art styles marry well with the story. So the Monet thing was kind of a hook, and it's a good hook because graphic novels are, you got to love the art or you're not going to stay in. So it carries it well, but they hold up against each other. So if you're intrigued and you like Monet and murder, Black Water Lilies by Fred Duvall.
Might have to check that out. I do enjoy me a graphic novel. So my next book is a juvenile book. It's called The Westing Game. It's by Ellen Raskin, and it was written in 1958. It's sadly the last book she wrote before she died, and it's so good. So it's just like a little heartbreaking that it's like, that's it. I think she's written like 2 other books, and unfortunately then she passed away. So The Westing Game is about a man named Samuel W. Westing, and he lives in a manor next to these newly built Sunset Towers, this apartment building where 16 people live who were hand selected. They don't know it, but we know it, like from page 2 or 3, that they were hand selected to live in this building. So he's found dead in his manor after not having been seen for a very long time. And they are all invited, well, for the most part, most of them are invited to hear the reading of the will. And none of them were really like close to him. Some of them didn't even know him, but they all go because he was a millionaire and, you know, why not? So they go and they find out he has made a game, a Westing game, if you will, where they're all paired up into seemingly like random or specifically chosen pairs and given slips of paper with various words on them, like 5 or 6 words each. And the words are like very random, like there's brother, the waves, purple, and they have to put them together and figure out what they mean. And through this, find out who caused Samuel W. Westing's death, because in his will, he says someone took his life. He did not die of natural causes, no matter what the coroner says. And so the remainder of the book is these people trying to figure out what these words mean, but really it's a character study of all of them. And you might think like 16 people, that's a lot of characters, especially for like a book that's like this thin. But it is actually really good. Like Ellen Raskin was really good at creating unique characters who you instantly can pick out. Like there was no point where I was like, oh, who is this person again? Like I didn't need to keep notes or flip to like an index of characters like when I'm reading Game of Thrones. I was just like, oh yeah, that's this person, or oh, that's that person's brother, or that's that person's daughter. And you got like intimate knowledge of certain parts of their lives. Like this person isn't well treated by their mother, or this person is like the favorite child, or this person really wants to do this with their life, but maybe they're not going to be able to because of reasons, and the money would really help them. And so you're trying to figure out who killed Samuel W. Westing. He says it was one of them. So you're also trying to figure out, was it one of them? And also you're piecing together the mystery through the different characters, because it doesn't focus on just one character. It goes back and forth between all sorts of different people who are invested in the game. And even if you think you have the answer, because I kind of figured out what was going on with the pieces of paper, I still had no idea how that had anything to do with Samuel Westing's death. So it was like a really good read. There's no page that is wasted in this book. Like every single page has some information that is useful, or that at the very least gives you deeper meaning into the characters. You actually come to like care about some of them a lot, and you kind of want them to win. And then you do find out, just in case you're worried that this is one of those books where you don't find out. But it wraps up like so many other things. Like it's very satisfying is what I would find. Like I got to the end and I was like, yes, that pleases me. And a little thing I found out when I was researching this book is that Ellen Raskin just sat down and wrote this. She didn't have like notes on these 16 people and how they're all interconnected and what this means for this and what this means for this and what this has to do with the death, which kind of blows my mind because reading it, I'm like, how are you keeping track of this? And apparently she was just like keeping track of it in her mind. So if you are interested, that's The West End Game, Ellen Raskin. On to you, Lori.
Oh, so many memories. I read that book when I was a child and I have my copy at home. It's falling to bits, but now I have to go back and read it again. I'm so happy that it's still in print. That makes me feel good. So this book is called Scorched Grace, and I picked it up honestly for the cover. I knew nothing about it. Normally, I'm a person who reads book reviews and things like that, checks things out. But if you can see on the camera there, the image of a nun in stained glass smoking a cigarette, okay, I have to read this book. I just have to. And I was definitely not disappointed by it. It is really, it's an amazing story just on so many different levels. The main character is Sister Holiday, and she's introduced to us when she's sneaking outside for a smoke. She's in a convent, she's a teacher, and she's set in New Orleans in a very, very hot summer. And it talks about, and it's written from her, it's first person written from her perspective. And so many things are introduced through her just to start off with. She has to wear gloves to cover her tattoos, that she smokes, that she has to be sneaky about smoking, that she smokes cigarettes that she confiscates from her students. And as the story progresses, you do find out more about her. So there's a mystery wrapped within a mystery, layered into different things. Like the overarching plot is that she moved from Brooklyn to New Orleans after something horrible happened to her. And she's trying to slowly rebuild her life. At the school that she works at is, of course, it's extremely underfunded. It's a Catholic institution, and it is being hit by a series of arsonist attacks, I guess, if that's the correct phrase. So she puts on her Sherlock cap and tries to figure out what's happening. But as the story goes on, it just introduces characters that normally the author very specifically chose to write about people that are not normally featured in books. They're books and their relationship, like the police are involved, there's investigators involved. And again, it's very much not a typical, okay, the big cop comes striding in and solves the mystery and saves the day. It's very layered and nuanced with the relationships that people have with each other, with the reasons that they do the things that they do, with the whole perspective on life and things that happen in life and where that will take you. The theme of forgiveness runs throughout this, the idea of and it really, It gave a lot of interesting views on the whole concept of what is evil, what is good, who is, what is a good person, what makes a person a good person, can somebody ever commit a sin so heinous and so grievous that they can never be forgiven? And that is the question that Sister Holiday asks herself pretty much every day. There is a lot of vivid description of trauma, of loss, and of violence. So there's definitely a lot of really intense scenes here. This is not a light book, although it is actually quite funny in spots, which kind of surprised me. There is a second book that the library has that I'm really looking forward to reading as well. I read this book actually a couple of times, and I do like rereading books, but generally not very close, like in close succession. And I read it a few times just to get the most out of it, because there were points when I was so focused on one part of the story that I felt I kind of didn't do justice to the rest of the story. So Sister Holiday, she is the cigarette smoking nun, picked it up for the cover, stayed for the characters and for the story.
Yeah, I'm putting that on my to-read list. That's intriguing.
Very much so.
All right, it's that time. Lightning rounds. We're going fast. And why mess with a good thing? Still another graphic novel, because it's not Monet though. Now it's the Great British Bump Off. This is what happens when you marry the Great British Baking Show with murder. It's so lovely. We have it in print and ebook. I love the art. Like, Monet is very classy, and that's beautiful. But like, when you get these, it's a Dark Horse comic. Just if you know comics, you kind of find ones that you like, and then the style kind of sticks. Like, look at that. Look at these with all these skulls. It's beautiful and quirky and vibrant and stylized and easy and fast and great. That's like about it. So there's this girl named Shauna. I'm assuming we've watched some form of a baking show. She comes in. She wants to charm the nation. She wants to make some friends and win the grand prize. But shocker, somebody gets poisoned and she has to solve it. So it's just funny and adorable, and the art moves the story, and it's great. The Great British Bump Off. Highly recommend.
My next book is Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. If you've ever seen the movie 50 First Dates, but you wished it was more dark and messed up, this is the book for you. It's about this woman who meets in a car accident when she was 29. She's now 47. She's married. Her name is Christine. She has a husband. She has a son. But every morning when she wakes up, she doesn't remember anything that happened after the accident. Sometimes she regresses even earlier than the accident. So she wakes up thinking she's in her 20s, and she finds out, no, you're 47. This guy in your bed is your husband. You have a son. You have like this whole history that you don't remember. And we are learning her history as she learns her history through these journals that she keeps. So every morning she wakes up, her husband's there. He gives her like the backstory of what's going on. There's some pictures that he has pinned up in the bathroom that kind of flesh out what she missed over the last like 25 years. And she writes in her journal what she's learned and then what happens that day. And she has started writing this journal at the advice of her therapist, Dr. Nash. So every chapter is basically starting afresh for her, but we're of course picking up on the things we've learned. And it becomes kind of slowly apparent that there are things going on that she doesn't know about, that she's not being told about, either by her therapist or by her husband or by the few remaining friends she has left, because this has kind of put a hindrance on any kind of social life she can have since she doesn't remember anyone. And it starts to just cast doubt on, like, who can you trust? Can you even trust yourself in your own sort of scattered memories and the things you pick up? It's really spooky to kind of put yourself in that frame of mind and like think like, well, what did I do? And just the concept of waking up and finding out half of your life is just gone, and you kind of just have to roll with it. And it's it's a mystery, but it is kind of scary in that sense. So if that sounds appealing to you, that is before I go to sleep.
All right, so my first lightning pick is The Dogs by Alan Stratton. This is a young adult novel. It's written by Alan Stratton. He normally is famous more for writing plays, but he won several awards for this one. The storyline is that Cam and his mom are on the run from his abusive father, or are they? Is his mom suffering from some sort of mental illness with forms of delusions of paranoia? In any case, they move from place to place constantly, and the latest house that they end up in, could it be haunted? The rumor is that it's a murder house in the community. So there's two ways to look at this story. You can either assume that the events are supernatural, that Cam is actually seeing ghosts, or realistic, that his father has actually found them. This actually was some of the events in this story were based on the author's own life experiences, his childhood experiences of living with an abusive father and his mother's efforts to leave him. So if you're looking for, it's a very fast read, it's scary, it's mysterious, and it will keep you guessing. The Dogs by Alan Stratton.
Ooh, I like it. Okay, my last pick, it's here, and it's Edward Gorey. Because he's like the most mysterious and lovely and weird and wonderful human. So this is not the first book there's collections of his work, and they're called Amphigory. Amphigory again is this one, but Amphigory is the first one. We don't have it, but it's coming. I asked our lovely collections librarian to please get it, because the book I wanted to pick was The Gashlicum Tinies. Everybody knows that one. It's where the name of the child starts with the letter of the alphabet, and they die in mysterious and horrible ways at each letter of the alphabet. And that's kind of a thing with Edward Gorey. He likes the alphabet. He likes weird, wonderful, strange, dark, glorious things. And so this is a collection of things. It's not just one thing. There's a lot of stories in there. He was just dark, twisty alphabets. That's what I think of when I think of him. So he's kind of a cult status guy. If you know him, you know. He designed for ballets and had TV shows. Just he's very interesting. So also you should read his biography if you're into it, because we have that one. But the Amphigory collections are just nice because they put a whole bunch of things together. So if something's not your speed, you're like, and you flip to the next one. There's one in Amphigory again that specifically goes with the murder thrillers. It's called The Deadly Blotter, and it's a murder mystery without words, through images each, with the alphabet thrown in there and the descriptions. It's great. Edward Gorey, yes. Not just to terrify children, but to take along with you in your life. Kind of like Lemony Snicket, but drawn. And before that. So there you go.
Definitely checking that out. I love Edward Gorey.
So good.
So my last one is technically The Quiche of Death, but we have like a 2-book copy. So it's, if you're looking for it in the library, it's called Introducing Agatha Raisin, and it has the first 2 books. I'm only doing The Quiche of Death, but I have read both, and they're both good. But I am like Lori, and I have to read books in order. So The Quiche of Death, that is the first in a series starring Agatha Raisin. Agatha Raisin is a woman who has just retired rather early in life, sold her company, and decided she's going to move to this small little village called Carsley, and she bought this lovely cottage, and she gets out there, and she kind of almost instantly regrets it. She's very bored. She kind of finds like people in the town annoying, or she finds it hard to make friends. She misses things about the city, and she's already like thinking like, oh, I should sell the cottage and move back. But then she decides there's a local baking contest. She's going to enter it. She's going to enter a quiche in the local baking contest. And maybe that will help if she wins. Then that will kind of elevate her in the community, and people will like her. They won't see her as like the outsider from London. So she enters the contest. She kind of isn't on the best terms with the judge, which doesn't really spell anything good for her. But she's thinking, no, this quiche, which she bought at a store and is pretending it's hers. It's like the best quiche ever. And there's no way anyone else can win. But of course she doesn't win. And the judge takes the quiches home to finish them off, and he's finishing off the quiche that Agatha gave him, and he dies. And of course, people are instantly like, "Oh, it was Agatha," but Agatha knows that she didn't make the cake, didn't make the quiche, so it's not really her. And she decides, you know what? I'm bored, and I don't want people thinking that I murdered this guy. So she decides to investigate it herself. And what I really liked about this book, I love cozy mysteries, but what I liked about this book is, much like with The Favorite Daughter, Agatha's kind of a jerk, but it's kind of like, you're kind of relieved because some of the people are jerks to her and she just won't take it. So I enjoyed reading about her kind of just going through like a typical cozy mystery, but then responding in a much more like cantankerous manner. So if that sounds appealing to you, again, it's called Introducing Agatha Raisin. It's the Quiche of Death by MCB.
I want to grow up to be Agatha Raisin. Okay, so my last pick is Strangers by David A. Robertson. He is, of course, a Winnipeg author, one of my very favorite people to read. Yes, yes. This is a young adult story. It is, of course, a series. It is the first book in the series because that's just how I roll. It's the story of a young man named Cole who grew up for the first 10 years of his life on Wounded Sky when there was a tragedy that happened and his grandparents moved him to Winnipeg. So the story begins when he's in his late teens. He gets a call from one of his best friends and says, you got to come back. You got to come back. There's something happening here. And Cole suffers from anxiety, so he's really struggles with going back. And when he is there, he struggles a lot with dealing with his emotions. But when he arrives, the friend who contacted him said, "You shouldn't be here. Why are you here?" And then a murder happens, and he's drawn into things that happened in his past, the events that forced him and his family to leave Wounded Sky are brought up again. His own family is torn at seeing him again. They love him, but they don't want him there. There is a trickster figure in here who is maybe leading him astray, but is maybe not. Maybe is keeping him on the path to help him solve these mysteries and to help to change the future for the people that he had once left behind. So it is a strange story. It's, again, a very quick read. Make sure that you have access to the ones that follow right away, because I did not and I regretted it. So pick up Strangers and pick up the ones that follow immediately, and just read anything that you can get your hands on by David A. Robertson.
Ooh, I like the sounds of that. I've got a whole bunch of him on my to-be-read list, so maybe I'll start there. That's it. We did it. We made it through. 15 new books for all the humans who are watching us. And in case you who are watching want more recommendations, we've done this for a long time. Go back, check out the romance ones and the audiobooks and we've done so many I can't remember them all. But yeah, thank you for watching, and we hope you're able to view the next offering of staff picks. Bye.